Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host, KrabbyTerror8, and welcome to episode 19 of the Investigator Games. And here we are with Finn Edwards, everybody's favourite criminal bootlegger. Very much looking forward to seeing how Finn goes in The Gathering. Before we start though, a couple of things. What is the Investigator Games for those of you who haven't watched before? Well, it's a little bit like the Hunger Games. So what we do is we take each investigator in Arkham Horror the card game and we put them through a scenario, in this case The Gathering, and we see how they do. We take their victory points and convert those to experience points, and then we put them in a league table, and from top to bottom, here's the league table so far. So we can see we've got 18 names on here so far, covering the Night of the Zealot campaign, the obviously the Path to Carcosa campaign, the Dunwich Legacy campaign, of course, and we are now covering the investigators from the Forgotten Age campaign. And those at the top, we can see Safina Rousseau, Akachi, and Leo Anderson are currently on top of the table because they have not only did they get through and investigate successfully all the cellar and the attic and the study, they also defeated the Ghoul Priest and one other ghoul that gave them a victory point. Safina has done that the fastest. She did all of that in 11 turns. Ashcam Pete has been the fastest overall, finishing and defeating the Ghoul Priest by turn 8. That's why his is in red. That's the fastest. So nobody has got 8 experience points. That's because nobody's managed to defeat the Icy Ghoul and the Flesh Eater because it just wasn't possible, or for whatever reason that hasn't happened. Last week Ursula Downs is there on the list, and we can see that she resigned in turn 10. She got Leader Chandler, so she's top of the 4-pointers who haven't defeated the Ghoul Priest. She didn't take any physical or mental trauma, but she wasn't able to defeat the Ghoul Priest, so there we are. And then we've got a bunch a couple of 5-pointers in there as well. In fact, funnily enough, Skids O'Toole and Jenny Barnes, both rogues, are in the 5-pointer category. So I didn't notice that before, but this gives Finn Edwards the opportunity, like Safina, who is also a rogue, to step up and do a little bit better than those two. So yeah, that's how the Investigator Games works. We'll look at the table at the end of the video as well when we get there. So that's the Investigator Games. Spoiler alert, if you haven't played Arkham Horror the card game before, if you haven't played The Gathering before, I strongly advise and suggest that you go ahead and do that. I'm assuming the people watching this know this scenario reasonably well. So just to put that on the table before we start. Now, before we do kick off, I had a chat to Finn Edwards in the green room, as I always do with these investigators. It's always very interesting to have a little chat to them. Finn, yeah, he's quite a charming character. He brought a case of scotch to the green room, or, well, it wasn't just any old scotch, it was bootleg Canadian rye, which it's all very well, but I had to gently point out to Finn that Prohibition hasn't been around for a while, and indeed where the green room is situated, there's never been Prohibition, so, you know, not such a big deal. However, he winked at me, and then he took out the bootleg Canadian rye from the top, and underneath he had Cuban cigars, North Korean kimchi, and some Libyan Kalashnikovs. So I suppose he's living up to his name, where if there are illicit things or substances, Finn's your man. He's the one to get those things. So if anybody is on the lookout for North Korean kimchi, it's quite tasty actually, or Libyan Kalashnikovs, there are actually some in a crate in the green room. Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, we had a chat about things. He's quite confident that he's going to do well in the investigator games, and I think he has reasonable reason to feel confident, and we'll talk about that in a second. But he feels like he's going to do pretty well. He seems like a pretty confident kind of guy anyway. So we had a chat. He also talked about Ursula's allegations about, sleazy talk. I think Finn and Rex were singled out by Ursula. He's like, I've no idea what she's talking about, although I noticed the way he was blinking his eyes just looked a little bit like he might be not quite telling the truth. But he was glad that she got totally crushed by the scenario last week, which I thought was a little bit unfortunate. Anyway, he leapt up. He gave me a hug and he left and went to step up up to the plate. He's just waiting there in the scenario. The crowds are still filing in, the audience, so he'll be starting soon. But I noticed that it's only afterwards I noticed that he'd pinched my wallet and left a note instead of where my wallet would have been, in my jacket pocket, which said, Skids owes you one. So a bit of a joke, I suppose, there between these rogues like Skids and Finn. I'm not sure that I really appreciate it. I'd really like my wallet back, please. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's Finn Edwards for you. I spoke to the Ghoul Priest. Ghoul Priest doesn't like Finn Edwards very much. Couple of things why is Finn Edwards tends to be able to talk himself out of situations and talk people like Lita into helping him out. He's got reasonable fight and he's got reasonable weaponry, so the Ghoul Priest is a little bit wary of Finn Edwards, and Lita Chandler, not surprisingly, really likes Finn Edwards. So they tend to get along quite well, and in a lot of scenarios where Finn does do the gathering, they do tend to team up in that way. So that may be the case this time as well. And again, shout out to the Ghoul Priest. I did tell him how much we appreciated the fact that he's been driving improved occupational health and safety around the place, and so he appreciates that. So that's good to know. So let's have a look at Finn Edwards as a investigator. So there's this theme here with these Forgotten Age investigators that they have reasonable traits, reasonable skills, I should say, but having one which is not very good at all. So we saw with Ursula, she had a 1 fight. Here with Finn Edwards, it's a 1 willpower. So that's quite a big weakness. And as we'll see, his Fantasy Flight game starter deck doesn't put any guts in at all, which is a bit perverse, actually, that, you would think if you've got 1 willpower, the one thing you do is put in a couple of guts to kind of offset the fact that you've got 1 willpower. But anyway. So, but he's got really reasonable evade and intellect and fight. So, that means he should have no problem finding the clues. He should have no problem evading enemies. Not that evasion is going to be, there's going to be usually a lot of things to evade in the gathering. It's not exactly the most monster heavy sort of scenario anyway, particularly on solo play. And he's got reasonable fight, so that's all good. Now, unlike other rogues, which are more perhaps about gaining lots of resources, Finn's key thing is around evasion. So that's going to be a little bit problematic as in a solo play in the gathering, because it maybe will get lots of ghoul minions and things, and we'll have lots of opportunity for evasion, but usually that's not quite the case. But anyway, you can take an additional action during your turn, which can only be used to evade. So this is an extra. It's not a fast action. So for example, Ursula had a fast action in terms of investigation. Leo had a fast action in terms of bringing out an ally, for example. This is not a fast action, but it is an additional action. So he gets a 4th potential action, which can be only used to evade, so which can be handy if you're encountering an enemy. You might as well evade it. And then the reason that evasion is also good is that if you get the Elder Sign, you get +1 for each exhausted enemy in play. So you can see here that there's a mechanic around evasion and exhaustion. and if you succeed by 2 or more, you get a clue at your location. So that's a little bit like Roland's mechanic of getting a clue, but instead of it being about enemy defeating, it's about being super good at evading things. So there's more incentive there to evade before doing skill tests, because you can discover clues even faster, and he's reasonably fast on the clue front. 7 health, 7 mental health, so reasonable from that perspective as well. So yeah, that willpower is the biggest issue where we're coming up against willpower checks. So Crypt Chill being the one that can cause some problems. So we've got to make sure that Finn Edwards has reasonable number of assets on the table, because it's unlikely he's going to pass a Crypt Chill kind of test. So that's Finn. Let's have a look at his deck here. Again, this is not a deck I designed. This is the deck that, like I said, is the intro deck Fantasy Flight Games, and we saw last week with Ursula that was very problematic for her. Finn's isn't too bad. Like I said, the only thing is it's not really providing him with much support. Like there are a couple of cards like Dig Deep has a willpower pip, for example. So there are a couple of cards with the willpower pip, but it's going to be it doesn't really shore up that much from that perspective. But the main cards here, this is a nice card. This is a Finn Edwards deck only. This is an event. It's called Smuggled Goods. Again, no ready enemies, so they need to be evaded. You search for illicit cards, and we've got lots of them. Everything from the Switchblade is an illicit card, through to the Derringer is probably an illicit card. Yeah. So, what else is on here that's going to be illicit? Some other illicit items, I'm sure, are there's a couple of others here which are illicit. Yes, the Burglary is an illicit card. That's not. They're not illicit, so Burglary is another. So there's a few illicit cards. Yes, and pickpocketing. So there's a reasonable number of illicit cards that we can use that to essentially draw extra illicit cards, and then you shuffle Smuggled Goods back to your deck, which is very nice. Finn's Trusty 38 is also there. It's only got 3 ammo, but it's fast. You get +2 fight, and if the enemy is not engaged with you, so again encouraging you to evade, you get +1 damage. So that's again another way to sort of encourage you to evade. So yep, that's that. His weakness isn't too bad. It's caught red-handed. It's actually not a bad weakness at all. It basically means that ready enemies, hunter enemies move. And then if that doesn't happen, then it just goes back into your hand. So it basically allows enemies to ready, which could be a bit of a pain, but it's not overzealous or anything, so it's not too bad. We drew Paranoia, which is discard all your resources. That's fine, except of course if we're trying to play Leo DeLuca, which is of course a fantastic card to have, and we'll be certainly hoping to get Leo DeLuca onto the table as quickly as possible, and hopefully he'll be in our opening hand. Now, apart from our weapons, we've got the usual clutch of rogue cards which allow us to do extra damage. So Sneak Attack, deal 2 damage to an exhausted enemy, which of course synergizes nicely with the way Finn plays. Again, it's a pity there's only one of these. And then we've got Backstab, which uses your agility rather than your fight, and of course we've got high agility, and that does +2 damage, so we'll be wanting that for the Ghoul Priest. Excuse me, I'm just taking a drink. And also the I didn't mention this, but of course he's a rogue survivor. So we have some nice rogue cards here. Lucky, which is always a nice card to get if you're going to fail a skill test, like something like Crypt Chill. We've got Rabbit's Foot, that if you do fail a test, you draw a card, and Survival Instinct, which is a nice card to get when the Ghoul Priest is about to arrive or has arrived, we can disengage and we can move to a connecting location, which is great if we want to get Leader Chandler on board, which I think we will want to do because we've got reasonably high intellect skill and there's a good chance we can parley with her and get her on board. Elusive as well, which is a fast play. You disengage from each enemy and move to a revealed location with no enemy. So if we're in the hallway and we're trying to get into the parlour, both of these cards work in a similar way in terms of what they do, but their mechanics are slightly different. So those are all good cards. This card is completely useless in this deck, I'm afraid. It's just one of those things. You take the rough with the smooth. This is really about choose another investigator. That investigator is considered to have drawn the encounter card. Well, that's not going to happen because there are no other investigators. So we'll be using this for the agility and the intellect pip only. Yeah, so they're the main cards I wanted to point out. I think Finn has a really good chance if we can get ourselves set up with the clues reasonably fast, and then we can get Leader Chandler and we can throw in a backstab or two. I think we've got a reasonable chance to defeat the Ghoul Priest and do well. He will do well in this scenario. So there we go. That's the deck. Let's close and shuffle up the deck. So there we go. There's our cards there. So let's begin. Let's start by reading out the act and the agenda deck as we always do, and then we'll draw our hand. So here we go. What's going on? It's late at night, and you're holed up in your study storeroom researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. The cops here? At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if something were digging beneath the floor. Is something after my Kalashnikovs? And the other side is trapped. As you leap to investigate, and indeed we would be leaping, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. So there we go. That's the beginning. So here we are. Finn Edwards, he's got his 5 resources. We're here in the study. I've put out the other places just so we don't have to do it later. They, of course, don't currently exist. 2 clues on the study, 3 actions, potentially 4 actions, but there's nothing to evade at the moment. So here we are at the beginning to draw our first 5 cards. So this is always my favourite part. What are we going to draw? What are we going to draw? What are we going to draw? So let's have a look at what our 5 cards are. I'm just going to shuffle up the deck again. This is all very exciting. And here we go. Now, what do we want? We want, well, the main thing I'm really looking for is Leo DeLuca. Because once we have Leo DeLuca on the table, we're getting an extra turn, which means we can potentially be getting 2 extra turns with the evasion as well. So that gives Finn an incredible advantage in terms of finishing this faster than other people. So if there's one card I really, really want to get, it's Leo DeLuca. It would also be good to have, at this stage, some kind of weapon we can get out onto the table as well, so that we can deal with smaller monsters, even if we're just evading them to move on. And apart from that, I probably would like something like starting to set things up for the Ghoul Priest, which is things like the backstabs and those sorts of things. So let's see how we go. So first card we get is the knife. So that's good. That's a handy card to have. Next card is Decorated Skull. Now, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why this is in the deck. Decorated Skull. It doesn't seem to fit thematically with Finn. I mean, basically, and we don't really have very many allies. So after an investigator ally asset or enemy at your location is defeated, put a resource on the skull, and then you can basically draw a card and gain a resource. I mean, it's kind of okay, but it's kind of a strange choice to put in the deck, so not that enamored with that. Opportunist, that's always a nice card. You know, if you succeed by 3 or more, you can bring it back to your hand, so it's sort of a recurring wild card in that way. Fourth card is Caught Red-Handed. Well, that's a weakness, so that goes to the side. Backpack. Backpack's okay, and we could use that to get those items and things like that. It's kind of okay. Better at the beginning of the game, I think. And then the fifth card is Flashlight. So there we go. These are all our cards. So there's no Leo DeLuca on here at all. So to be honest, none of these cards are absolutely essential at this stage. And I really want to maximize the chance of getting Leo DeLuca because it makes such a difference. So we're going to throw all of these in and draw another 5. So we get the Switchblade, which is, it's kind of an okay weapon. It's fast, but you've got to succeed by 2 or more to do +1 damage. So that's the Switchblade. Emergency Cache. Third one is Eavesdrop. I didn't talk about this before. This allows you to discover 2 clues at your location, but there has to be an unengaged enemy at your location, and then you've got to test. So it's very situational, so it's a bit of a problem, that card. Fourth card is Sneak Attack, which is a great card. And fifth card, no Leo DeLuca, is Perception. So, bit of an unfortunate draw all round, really. But that's all right. So I'm going to shuffle this up. So we didn't get Leo DeLuca. He might pop up later, but that's a little bit unfortunate that he didn't pop up at all. So, well. Okay, so here we are in the study. It's time to go. We've got 3 actions. The crowd goes wild. Finn waves at the crowd nonchalantly, like he doesn't have a care in the world, which, given his hand that he's just drawn, I would be a little bit concerned. But anyway, that's the way that he is. So first thing we're going to do, I think, is, because this is a fast action, is we'll spend 1 and bring out the Switchblade, which doesn't cost us an action because it's fast. So out comes a Switchblade, ready to roll. It's just good to have this in play if we get a rats or something like that. It's always handy to have it there. So yeah. So I don't think we can play any other. And I know you're saying, well, what happens if you get a Crypt Chill? Look, if we lose the Switchblade, it is not the end of the world. So just wanted to get it out there. So that's the first thing. So the first action we're going to do is we're actually going to investigate. We might as well. So the first action we're going to do is investigate the study. So it's a 2 versus a 4. So it's a -2 or better. Chaos Bag tells us -3. So we fail. Oh well, let's try again. So 2 versus 4. Chaos Bag has -4. I can't believe this. Final action in the study. Chaos Bag has +1. So there we go. We succeed. Yeah, we're off and running. So there we go. That's our first turn. Little bit disappointing, really. We didn't draw a great round of cards to start with, I'd have to say. We got out the Switchblade fast, so we whipped out the Switchblade ready to roll. But then we failed at 2 attempts to find the clues in the study, a -3 and a -4. But then we succeeded on the 3rd turn, so we'll be no doubt out of the study next go or something like that. We'll see how we go. So there we go. That's the end of the first round. So not a great start for Finn. But anyway, see how. I keep wanting to call him Flynn, but it is Finn. So yes. So let's move into the enemy phase, or yes, the enema phase, as I like to call it. And there are no enemas to speak of, so we can move directly into the upkeep phase, and we get the good old Backstab, which again, great card. So Sneak Attack, Backstab, nice cards to have in hand down the track. But I wish we had Leo DeLuca, but we don't. So no point crying over no Leo DeLucas. Anyway, so there we go. That's the end of the good old upkeep phase, which means, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for everybody's favorite phase. We all love this phase. We live for this phase, the Mythos phase. So the first Doom is down on the table. Dun, 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 dun. And it's time to draw from the good old encounter deck. What has the encounter deck got for us today? And it's some rats. Well, there you go. There you go. We got some rats. Rats. Yeah. So, got some rats. So the switchblade will come in handy after all. Because we could evade the rats, but they're actually fairly slippery creatures. Whereas it's just easy enough just to switchblade. Apparently, a swarm of rats is easier to switchblade to death than avoid by stepping on a chair or something. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So there we go. We've got the rats. So that's the end of the mythos phase, which means we move into the good old investigation phase. So that's 3 actions on Flynn. And potentially we've got a 4th action. So what we could do is we could take a free action and look to evade the swarm of rats. So we could do that. Because it's an action, you know, it's not like we can use that action for something else. So, you know, we might as well use it. If it doesn't work, it's not like it's a ghoul, so we would take some damage. I mean, it's possible if we drew the well, -1 if you fail to take a horror, that wouldn't happen because -1 would be a success. So the risk of drawing a bad thing, which is going to cause us all kinds of problems, is just not there. So, and actually having an evaded enemy might be handy because we could draw the Elder Sign. So it could be handy from that perspective as well. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't take our additional action, which we're going to do now, and we're going to evade the rat. So it's a 3 versus a 4. Chaos Bag says -4, so that's not going to work. There you go. It was worth a try, though. So what we're going to do is for our first action, well, for our first real action, we're going to fight the rats. We're going to hit them with the switchblade. So that's, we are a 3, they are a 1. So we're going to fight the rats, 3 versus 1. Chaos Bag says -1. So did we succeed by 2 or more? So that gives the rats, so we are a 3, 2. No, it's only success by 1. So it isn't by 2 or more, but we kill the rats anyway in the process. So the rats are dead. Okay. Excellent. So we have 2 actions left. So what are we going to do with these 2 actions? Well, the obvious thing to do is to investigate the study again. So it's a 2 versus a 4. I'm not going to throw this in. I could throw this in, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's possible this could work in the cellar. It's possible there could be an unengaged enemy there, and we could test and we can get 2 clues. So it's possible to keep it for that. I definitely want to keep that for something like the cellar because things can get a bit hairy down there. So I think we just go 2 versus 4. So the second action is to investigate. 2 versus 4. Chaos Bag says -3. I don't believe this. Okay, I am going to throw it in now. I'm not gonna mess around anymore because I'm sick of this. So this is the third action. I really want to get rid of this now. So that gives us a 5 versus a 2. So a -3 or better. Chaos Bag says -3 again. So thank goodness we did that. We've had some really nasty draws in this study, that's for sure. So yeah, so if we were 5 versus 2, yes, 5 versus 2, 3, yeah. So there we go. We got the final clue. Whew, that really was a close. Like if I hadn't thrown that in, we'd still be in the study probably in another 10 turns. Just amazing, really. You would think there was all -3s and -4s in this Chaos Bag, but anyway, we've got the 2 clues. Now we're not going to throw them in just yet because creature turns up, the creature is dead, so we might as well let that play out. Yeah, we can go straight into the hallway next time. So that was the end of our phase. So that was an okay phase. It was better than the last one. We tried our free evasion on the rats, and that didn't work. So then we killed the rats with our trusty switchblade. That was our first real action. Our second action, we failed to investigate again. So on the third action, we threw in the eavesdrop. And that good job we did, because that gave us a 5 versus a 2, and we got a -3 again. So we succeeded in getting the second clue for the study. So happy days. So there we go. We will be out of the study next go. So I thought Flynn, see, I'm doing it again. I thought Finn would be a lot faster, but so far, no dice. So we move into the enema phase. There are no enemas to speak of, so we can move directly into the upkeep phase, and we get the flashlight. So, yeah, we lost eavesdrop, but we've got the flashlight. So I'm resigning myself to the fact that we're probably not going to get Leo DeLuca, and there's no way to sort of tutor up for him either. There's nothing really. I mean, the only thing we can do is throw in the perception to get a successful card draw. But, you know, for all I know, it's at the bottom of the deck. So the only other thing is if there's some way of shuffling up the deck further. But, yeah, the flashlight may come in handy a little bit later down the track. So let's move into the Mythos phase. Here we are in turn 3 already of the Mythos phase. 2 dooms, so this will, unless we get Ancient Evils, this will tick over next time. So let's see what the encounter deck has for us this time. And the encounter deck has, yes, Dissonant Voices, Still Lives. So we can't play assets or events this round, whatever. I've only got the flashlight anyway, and I'm not going to be playing Sneak Attack, nor am I going to be playing Backstab. So, no biggie. No problem at all. That's fine. It can sit there. So, we move into the investigation phase. We put 3 actions on Finn. No evasion to speak of, so we might as well just throw these 2 clues, and I just put a resource. I just removed a resource. Let's try moving the clues again. So we remove 2 clues. Yeah, removes 1 resource marker. Yeah, so we remove the clues. There we go. So here we go. We can flip this. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see a door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, triple somersault, full pike, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. Yes. So put into play the hallway, cellar, attic, and parlour. Tick, 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 tick. Discards any enemies in the study. There are none. Place the investigator in the hallway. Doing. And remove the study from the game. There we go. Study is gone. We are now in the hallway. Hallway flips. Not that we can do anything in the hallway. But there we go. The walls of your house are splattered with mud. And your hardwood floor is gone. Replaced with a dirt path. It's going to need some work. So, yep. So we are now into the barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlour. As you move toward it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. ... Well, there are some paint tins up in the cellar. There's some things to do some needlework and dressmaking equipment. I wonder if they can help with the barrier. ... When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may spend the requisite number of clues to advance. It's actually interesting. I've been playing Return to the Night of the Zealot, with real cards on a real table. And I've been playing that quite a bit, so I'm thinking, oh, where's all the extra rooms? Where's all the, sorry, spoilers there. Where's all the extra bits and pieces? It's sort of, it seems like it's a bit too cut down now, but of course that's the way it's always meant to be. So there we go. We are now in the hallway. and we now need to see where we want to go from here. So, as per usual, I think we head up to the attic. La-di-da-di-da, up to the attic. Yep, flip the attic. Doing. Yes, and 2 clues. Smell of rotting meat assails our nostrils. Bloody carcass of malformed beast. Take a horror. The horror. The horror. There we go. We take a horror. So, hopefully, we will find. We'll find searching for clues here a little bit better. So let's try and get them because we've got 2 goes left. So first action is to investigate the attic. And we are a 4, so it's a 1 versus a 4, so a -3 or better. Chaos bag has +1. Easy. Let's do that again. Chaos bag says 0. There we go. Easy. That means we have our first victory point. Put damage on here. Oh, not the doom. I do that all the time. I could leave the doom there, you know, it doesn't really matter. Put the damage on there. Crag goes wild. Flynn waves his switchblade to the crowd. Crowd goes even wilder. He's stumbling around with dissonant voices in his head, but he's happy to get the first victory point of the games for Finn Edwards. There we go. So that's the end of our turn. So that was a pretty successful turn, actually. We spent our clues, jumped into the hallway, and then from there we went straight up to the attic and we investigated twice, and we were able to successfully get those clues. So we're well on our way in the games here. So that's the end of our turn. So we move into the enema phase, and there are no enemies to speak of. We haven't had anything since the rats. And then we move into the upkeep phase and we get hard knocks. Now, normally I don't like these kinds of cards because they're very resource intensive. And it's like, what are we going to spend it on? Now, for example, if we'd had Leo DeLuca and we'd spent 6 resources, we wouldn't have 7 on the table. However, in this circumstance, it's probably worthwhile bringing this out because we've got plenty of resources. We've got an emergency cache. So this will help in terms of our fight value and indeed our evasion value. So it's definitely worthwhile bringing this out when the time comes. Yes. So, so that's the end of our upkeep phase. Good-o. So we move into the into the mythos phase. There we go. There's the 3 turns on the mythos phase. So this flips. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. Oops, sorry. Before we do that, let's delete the dissonant voices. Bye-bye, dissonant voices. Sorry, I'll read that out again. Your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed, and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognise elements of your former home. Oh, that's where that crate of illegal blood diamonds, that's where I've been keeping those. Oh, that's where that illegally created hooch has been stored. I wondered where that had gone. Yes, things like that. The lead investigator must decide, choose one. Either each investigator discards 1 card at random from his or her hand, or takes 2 horror. Now, we are on 6 horror. We've got no ally. There's only 1 ally in the deck. So if we took another, it's 2 horror, isn't it? So if we took 2 horror, that would leave us with only 4, which means, I suppose it means we can take 2 hits from the Ghoul Priest, but it feels like a pretty heavy burden to have to endure. So I'm wondering whether we discard a card from at random, because is there anything here? I mean, we really wouldn't want to lose Backstab, I guess. That's the one we really wouldn't want to lose because it does so much damage. But that's only 1 of 6. Also, I wouldn't really want to lose the flashlight either. But taking another 2 horror, I suppose. I feel like I don't. The only card, which of these cards could I, afford to lose? Yeah, emergency cash, I could afford to lose. Sneak attack, yeah, could afford to lose that. Perception, well, I actually want Leader Chandler, so I don't want to lose that. So that's actually a really good card. I definitely don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that because that makes a huge difference in the cellar. I don't really want to lose that. I mean, I could. So only 2 of the 6. So the 2 of the 6 is 30% chance. So there's a 60% chance that I'm going to lose one of these, and I don't like those odds. So I'm going to take the 2 horror. I'm just gonna have to hope. So we've only got 4 left, so we can't afford to lose any more horror. So the issue will be if we get Rotting Remains. And Rotting Remains uses willpower. Oh yeah, Rotting Remains. So we're actually, I just realized, Rotting Remains uses willpower, whereas Grasping Hands uses agility. So I think Rotting Remains, you take, I'm just trying to remember now, I'm pretty sure you take horror from Rotting Remains, and we have no willpower to speak of, so we're probably up for another 3. So that's, I've changed my mind, I'm sorry. I think it's, because our willpower is so low, what have I done here? Have I done it again? We remove 1 resource marker. I've done it again. I've taken off a resource marker again. So, I keep doing that. So I removed it there. Yeah. So I'm changing my mind. I am going to lose one of these at random and just hope it's nothing too terrible. So here we go. Random discard, and we lost. Okay, we lost emergency cash, so we lost one of the ones. So after all that agonizing, we actually lost something that was no big deal anyway. So there we go. That's funny. Yes. So not too bad. Okay. So we can get rid of that, and we can go to Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find their way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. Okay, let's move on to the investigation phase. Okay, let's do the final thing we need to do in the Mythos phase, and that is to draw from the encounter deck. And the encounter deck says, Frozen in Fear. Yes. So there we go. Frozen in Fear, into play. First time you perform one of these things, it costs an additional action. At the end of your turn, test 3. Oh my goodness. Oh boy, are we going to? I don't think we can. I mean, we can test it, but we have a willpower of 1. This is a real pain. We can't use any of these, so we're going to end up probably frozen in fear for the rest of the game. Oh my goodness! You see, wouldn't a couple of guts have been fine? Anyway, that is a real pain. So even if we got the Elder Sign, that's +1 for each exhausted enemy, so that's not going to work. So, and we have no willpower at all, so we're going to have to just put up with Frozen in Fear, which is going to sap some of our ability to do things. So, anyway, that's really unfortunate, but that's the way that it goes, folks. Let's move into the investigation phase. Finn really doesn't like this malformed carcass. He's shivering and shaking all over. So there we go. There's our 3 actions. We can't do an evade action of any kind. So we first thing we're going to do is take 2 actions and move into the hallway. Yes. And then I think the best thing is to get ourselves down into this cellar, and then we can start, you know, buying putting flashlights out on the table and things. I'm trying to avoid putting too many assets on the table because of the old cryptual, which we are almost certain to fail. So you never know. So let's use our 3rd turn to move into the cellar. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Flip the cellar. As we're walking down the cellar, frozen in fear, we're shaking so much that we fall down the stairs and take a damage. Ouch! No, not damage there. Let's move the damage onto us. There we go. Yes. So there we go. Yep, 2 clues on the cellar. 2 clues. With a 4 shroud location. There we go. So yes, so that was our turn, which was rather uneventful because we're frozen in fear. So it took 2 actions just to get us back to the hallway, and then another action to get us down to the cellar where we took a damage. We're now at the end of our turn, and we have to do this. We have to test 3. Frozen in fear, which of course we won't pass, but let's see what the Chaos Bag has for us. And we get +1, which gives us a massive 2, but unfortunately that's not enough to discard Frozen in Fear. The only way we're really reliably going to do this is if we end up with a couple of monsters down in the cellar, we evade them, and then once they're evaded, we get the Elder Sign, which is a pretty long shot, I'm afraid. So I think we're just going to have to live with Frozen in Fear. Luckily, the thing about the Gathering is that it's not what you would call a very location intensive piece. So we've only got to move one place. It's more about fighting and things, because for example with the Ghoul Priest now, we if we have Frozen in Fear, we only get 2 actions rather than 3. So then we have to prepare ourselves for taking a bit of damage in that way. So it's a good job we didn't allow ourselves to take too much horror. So that's a little bit unfortunate. This one, see, 1 willpower is not so bad if you make sure you account for it in your deck, but this deck doesn't really account for it. And in fact, it says in the background text, it says, you know, he can't cope with willpower tests. It's like, well, dudes, couldn't they put in? All they had to do was put in guts. I'm not really sure why they wouldn't have done that, but anyway, never mind. That's the end of the investigation phase. So we move into the enemy phase, and there are no enemies to speak of. So we move into the upkeep phase and we get Dig Deep. Now, actually, this is a card we can use. So normally I'm very, very down on Dig Deep. But actually, in this case, I really want to get Dig Deep onto the table. So let's hope we don't get another Dissonant Voices. And at least with Dig Deep, if we've got that on the table, we actually have a good chance then of getting rid of this Frozen in Fear. I really, really hope so. So that's actually quite a positive outcome, because we've got eight resources, so it's not like we don't have plenty of resources at the moment. So we move into the Mythos phase. We get the first Doom on Rise of the Ghouls, so that's kicking off. So it's time to see what we get in terms of an event. The event card we get, well, what do you know? We get a Ghoul Minion. So this actually plays to our strengths. So this is okay, because then an evade action, because we get a free evade action, then becomes, we get an extra action, which means the first time you perform one of the following, it would normally take 2, it would just take 1. So that's a little bit more. I'm actually quite pleased about the fact that we got the Ghoul Minion, because that's going to be helpful to us in all kinds of ways. So bizarrely, Finn kind of does better when there's some exhausted enemies around him. It must be the adrenaline push he gets. So there we go. We're into the investigation phase again. We put 3 actions on Finn. So the first thing we need to do is we are frozen in fear, but we get a free, an additional, shouldn't call it free, an additional action, which can be used to evade. So we can use 2 actions to do an evasion, which will only cost us 1 of our usual 3. So it's a 2 and we are a 4. Do we want to throw something in? I don't want to throw in Hard Knocks or Dig Deep. So, and I don't want to throw in Backstab. So I think we just see whether we can 2 versus a 4. So our first action is to evade the Ghoul minion. 2 versus 4, we get a 0. Fantastic. Oh, where's Finn gone? Where's he gone? So there we go. We've exhausted the Ghoul minion, first of all. And that took 2 actions. But like I said, we get an extra evasion action. So I think I'm doing that right. Yeah, it cost an additional action. So I think that's perfectly fine. So what do we do next? So I think we're comfortable with having the Ghoul minion around at the moment. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to spend 2. And I'm going to bring out Dig Deep. So that means we now have a way of boosting our willpower, should we need it. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So that's another action. And for our third action, I think, do we use perception? I think we need the flashlight because I want to keep this for Leader Chandler if possible. Because we can't, that's for evasion and things. So, whilst it's another 2, whoops, 1, 2, we have the flashlight. 3 supplies on the flashlight. There we go. So we've got a switchblade out, we've got Dig Deep out, we've got 4, soon to be 5 resources, and we've got the flashlight out. So there we go. That was our third action. So that was a pretty good round. We didn't actually get any clues, but we set ourselves up here. I think we used our free evasion and 1 of our actions to evade the Ghoul minion. We then used our second action to spend 2 to bring out Dig Deep, and then we spent another 2 to bring out the flashlight. So that's our turn. Now the question is, do we use our resources here to avoid Frozen in Fear? My feeling is at the moment no, and the reason for that is next time we're going to be investigating. We get an extra evasion anyway to deal with the Ghoul minion, and I don't want to throw. I mean, we've only got 4 resources left, and we lost our emergency cash, so we can't just be throwing our resources around like there's no tomorrow, and we might get something like that we need to do a willpower test on. So I'm going to leave it for now, but we do still need to test. So so if we do get a +1, that's not going to help. +1 for each exhausted enemy, that's not going to help either. So I don't think we can still pass this because we're 3 and it's a 1, and so yes. So let's see how we go with the Chaos Bag. Chaos Bag gives us a 0, so that is still a failure, but we're still Frozen in Fear, but that's fine. I don't want to be wasting resources on something at the moment. I mean, we want to get rid of it probably for when we're fighting the Ghoul Priest, but right now I don't want to be wasting that. So the enemy phase, well, the enemy is exhausted, so that's all fine. So in the upkeep phase, we get the Rabbit's Foot. That is awesome, because now if we fail the Frozen in Fear, we can we can use the Rabbit's Foot, which is brilliant. That's great. This is all kind of synergizing nicely now. So we've got the Ghoul minions found us again. There you are, Frozen in Fear. I'm going to bash you. So Ghoul minion is back, and yes, we got the good old rabbit's foot. Awesome card to get. So that's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the Mythos phase. There are now 2 Doom on Rise of the Ghouls. So there are 2 Doom on Rise of the Ghouls. And I think it's time to draw from the encounter deck once again and see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has for us, well, a Flesh Eater. Hello. Nom 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 nom. So the Flesh Eater goes up here. So that's interesting because it's, do we make the choice to pop up there and try and kill the Flesh Eater or not for an extra victory point? Well, let's not worry about that now because we're down in the cellar. Once we get back to the hallway, we can think about whether we would want to do that or not. I mean, getting an extra victory point could be quite nice. We don't have a lot of... We don't have another... the Switchblade isn't the world's best weapon, I have to say. Easy evasion here, so we can evade and then sort of wail away on the Flesh Eater. It's got 4 damage, so it might be take us quite a bit of time to dispatch him, unless we start using sneak attack and backstab, which both of those... Well, if we keep the backstab, maybe the sneak attack might be worthwhile using on the old Flesh Eater for a victory point. I'll have a think about it. Okay, so that's the end of the Mythos phase. I'm sure you're all chanting, Flesh Eater, Flesh Eater, Flesh Eater. So we move into the investigation phase, another 3 actions on Flynn. And of course he's got his 4th extra action that he can use to evade the ghoul minion. And that's indeed what we're going to do now. We are going to... it'd be nice to bring this out, but that'll do an attack of opportunity. I don't want to do that. So we will use 2 actions, extra 1 and 1, to evade the ghoul minion. So it's a 2 versus a 4. Do we spend another resource to get +1? I think we do. Yes. So let's, because we can't keep wasting time. Chaos Bag says -2. So we didn't need to do that. So that was 2 versus 5. But anyway, that's all right. Better to be safe than sorry. So exhaust the ghoul minion. That was that's that. So what do we do now? I really want to bring out this rabbit's foot. Oh. It's going to cost 1 to do it as well. I think it's really worthwhile doing. So for my second action, I will bring out the rabbit's foot. Yeah. So we've now got we've got both of our hand slots full. We've got dig deep, and then we've got rabbit's foot round our neck. So that was our second action. And then our third action is to use the flashlight to bring down the shroud to 2, and we're just going to straight up investigate. Are we going to use this? Well, it's 2 versus 4, so I think I'm just going to go with that. Chaos Bag says, ooh, auto fail. That's all right. We can exhaust the rabbit's foot and we can draw a card. So that's pretty good. We can have the flashlight. So maybe that's a sign. So there we go. That was our round. So we what did we do? We evaded the ghoul minion with 2 of our turns for evasion. We then brought out the rabbit's foot. We then investigated, and we spectacularly failed to find anything. So there we go. That's a bit of a mixed bag. That's the way it goes. So we move into the enemy phase. The enemy is exhausted, so we move into the upkeep phase. Ghoul minion is back. Oh, there you are. You keep running away. What's that round your neck? That's very strange. And, yep, and we got elusive, great cards. So we're starting to set things up here where we've got the elusive. We can use that to then get to Leader Chandler. Then once we've got Leader Chandler on board, we can start really doing some serious damage to the Ghoul Priest. So these feel like these all work, which means that now I feel more like we could possibly use Sneak Attack on the Flesh Eater and get that extra victory point, which would be very, very nice. So there we go. That's the upkeep phase. So we move into the Mythos phase. This is now 3. This is getting halfway through, so we need to get a move on whatever we're going to do because things are going to start moving fast. Let's see what the... I forgot. At the end of your turn, test 3. We should have tested 3 for Frozen in Fear, and I didn't do that. And the reason I need to do it is because I could take damage. I didn't. Like if I get a tablet, you take damage. If I'd gotten the green one, what's it, the cultist, I would have taken damage. So I got a -4. Sorry about that. I just forgot about that. So there we go. So Mythos phase, there are 3. There are 3 Doom. So we just now need to draw from the encounter deck to see what we get. And the encounter deck gives us Ancient Evils. So yeah, we had another Doom. Ouch. Yeah, so that's really sped things up. That's a little bit unfortunate, but anyway, we've still got a couple of turns, but we need to start turning our minds to what we're doing here. So that's the end of the Mythos phase. We move into the investigation phase again, and we put 3 actions onto Finn. So the first thing we're going to do is like what we did before. We are going to evade, which only takes 1 action because we're using 2 actions. We're going to spend a resource, so that's going to give us a 5 versus a 2. Chaos Bag. Ah, boy. Okay. That was a fail. So we'll do it again. We'll evade again, and I'm going to actually just, I'm going to do it again. 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag says -1, so it's exhausted. So that only leaves us with 1 action. Oh, we failed, so we should do that and draw a card. Oh, now Leo DeLuca appears. Pity we don't have the resources for him. If we can get those, we'll have to build them up though. It's a bit late in the day and we don't have our emergency cash. Oh dear. Well, we can try and amass enough cash. Let's see how we go. Anyway, for my 3rd action, let's investigate again. So it's a 2 versus a 4 in the cellar. Chaos Bag says tablet, which is -2. If there's a ghoul enemy at your location, take a damage. So we succeed, but we take a damage in the process. Ouch. So there we go. We took a damage. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it's really very handy, this rabbit's foot. It's really keeping our cards up. It's pity we're just getting low on resources again. So we've just got to get 1 more clue now. Now it's the end of our turn. So we need to test for Frozen in Fear, which again is a... let's see how we go. Chaos Bag says Skull, so we don't get that. So we're keeping the Frozen in Fear for now. Okay, so that's the end of our turn. So we went to evade the Ghoul Priest and failed. Second time we succeeded. We drew Leo DeLuca because we failed, and then we used the flashlight to find a clue. So the cellar's proving to be a bit frustrating to actually get these clues. So enemy phase, now enemy's exhausted. Upkeep phase, enemy is back. Hello. And we get Eavesdrop, which would have been handy before. So this is the problem with eavesdrop. Eavesdrop would have been great before because it's like only engage enemy, test X where X is the evade value. If you succeed, discover 2 clues. Only 1 clue at the location, so it's kind of a bit... So I might be using this for the evasion piece rather than spending the dig deep ones. Anyway, so yes, that's our upkeep phase. So we move into the mythos phase, and we are now at 5. So things are rapidly moving apace, and after this, things are going to start. So we really need to get out of this cellar. And then if we're going to fight the Flesh Eater is to really get up to the attic and get on with it if we're going to do that. So let's have a look what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has... Well, what have we here? The Icy Ghoul. Oh my goodness. This is huge. Wow. Okay. Now this is kind of really interesting and scary all at the same time, because because this gives us an opportunity to get extra victory points. Because now we've got the Icy Ghoul here, but also we've got to evade this Icy Ghoul and get the clue here in the... Oh, my goodness. Oh, how I wish we had Liquor on the board. So the question is, do we use things like our backstab to take out the Icy Ghoul, which we can do. So if we used sneak attack and we used backstab, but the problem is if we use both sneak attack and backstab, we are then in a position where we've used up there's only one of these, so but it would give us a victory point if we did that. Ooh, okay. This has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works here, because nobody has ever gotten both of the victory points and killed the Ghoul Priest all at the same time. So that would be something different. The only problem is we don't have... If only we had a better weapon on us, apart from the old Switchblade, which is not the greatest weapon in the world. Oh my goodness, this is going to take some thought. And we are still frozen in fear. So, which is very unfortunate. So there we go. We've got the Icy Ghoul on board. We've now got 2 ghouls on us. So we're now in the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Flynn. And what do we do here? So we've got to deal with these 2... ghouls on us. That's the first thing we've got to do. So I think the first thing is we've got to look at this much higher value evasion here. So do we evade the Icy Ghoul, or do we try and kill the Icy Ghoul? So if we go ahead and don't evade, the problem is that will take us 2 actions. So yes, so yeah, this is a interesting choice here. Do we evade because we're going to evade anyway, and then and then we could do a backstab and a sneak it. We could do a backstab. And then, just kill it and keep the... do the sneak attack, which would leave still 2 to go. And then see if we can use the Switchblade to do the extra damage. That might be the way to go. But then the problem is we've used 2 turns, which means we will then take some damage from the Ghoul minion in the process. So that's the only problem with that approach. The other approach is we evade the ghoul. We then seek to evade the ghoul minion. I think the problem with that is that we're trying to do too many things. We're not really. It's not really helpful. So I think we've got to go for this icy. If we're going to go for the icy ghoul, we've got to go for the icy ghoul. So I think the first action, or the first two actions, are to evade the icy ghoul. So it's a 4. We are a 4. Yeah, 4 versus 4. I think we throw this in. So we make that a 5 versus a 4. And then I think we make it a 6 versus a 4. 6 versus 4 would cover the skulls. But I'm worried, so I think we better make it a... If we're going to do this, we better make it a 7 versus a 4. So it's a 7 versus a 4 to evade the icy ghoul. Chaos Bag says, oof, -1. Well, we didn't need to do that. But anyway, we've evaded the icy ghoul. So that was that. So second action. Oh, we can't spend the money. I just realised we don't. This is the problem. Is I realise now we don't have the. We've only got one resource left. So we can't. You see, this is the problem with these sorts of dig deep cards, is that you need lots and lots of resources. So now if we attack the icy ghoul, we fight, we are a 3. Yeah, and it's a 3 as well. So I mean, we could have 2 goes at fighting the icy ghoul, but then we're not going to do very much damage to it. I think we've got to evade the ghoul minion. So I think our second action is evade the ghoul minion. 2 versus 4. Chaos Bag says -2. Oof. Yeah, so we have evaded the ghoul minion. So now we've got both of them evaded. So we now have a third action. So the 3 actions we could do, we could move out of the attic, the cellar, which doesn't feel like a good thing to do. We can get this final clue, and I'm feeling like that's what we probably do. I think we get this final clue and then we get the hell out of here, because we're not really, I realise we don't have the resources, and we're not equipped to, and we need more resources if we're going to take on the Ghoul Priest. So whilst in theory this seems like a great idea, we just don't have the weapons. We don't have the resources. This is the problem. So it leaves us in a real bind. So our final action is to investigate the cellar. 2 versus a 4. Chaos Bag has a -1, so we succeed. And we get the final clue for the cellar, the easiest way to get the victory point. So yeah, Craig goes wild. Yeah, because getting the 4, yeah, we could have thrown these in, these evasion, getting the 4 attack. We didn't have the resources to use sneak attack. We didn't have the resources to use backstab. Completely forgot that we need 3 resources for those. So whilst, I mean, we still needed to evade, but we just needed to do that, and we've still got to get out. So next time we'll have at least 2. So even if nothing else, if we really do need to get out of there, we can disengage and move to a revealed location if we have to. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is we need to do the Elf Frozen in Fear, and it is possible here, I think. Could we? Yes, we could. If we got the Elder Sign, we could actually get rid of this Frozen in Fear. So the question is, do we throw in any more resources to add to the willpower? I think we don't. I think we just go for the Frozen in Fear again, and Chaos Bag has auto fail. So it's a good job we didn't try to do that. Oh my goodness! So that was a very tense round. We had 2 ghouls on us. I thought we hold on before we go any further. Sorry, I'm going to exhaust the rabbit's foot and bring out. Choose an item card from your discard pile. Have I got any? That's not an item. No. I don't have anything in there item-wise. Sorry, I'll just say that again. So yes, that time was quite tense. We had 2 ghouls on us, an icy ghoul and a ghoul minion. I thought maybe we have successfully evaded the icy ghoul. I thought maybe we could do something like a backstab and something until I realised we didn't have any resources to do that. So we have successfully evaded the ghoul minion. We got the final clue in the cellar, giving us the next victory point. So we really do need to get out of here and into the hallway. And the problem is once this flips, these ghouls are all going to start moving into the hallway and into the parlour. So if we're going to defeat the Ghoul Priest, we're really starting to run out of time. And the problem is our resources are dwindling away as well. So we need to get out of here and get some resources up so then we can start actually... So in hindsight, the emergency cash was actually a really bad thing to lose. But anyway, that's the way that it goes. So we move into the enemy phase. All the enemies are exhausted. Oh, it's so exhausting. And we move into the upkeep phase. Oh, we've got so many cards. So here we go. We've got the good old Derringer. So that's a better card to get. Now, what are we going to throw away? Well, we don't need the flashlight, but it's got an intellect pip which we can use on Lita Chandler. Hard Knocks. Yeah, all these cards are good. I don't really want to lose any of these cards. Which one? Well, I'd probably say actually the flashlight is probably the one we can afford to lose the most. There we go. Okay. So that's the end of our upkeep phase, back up to 2 resources, thank goodness. We move into the Mythos phase. There are now 6 on here, and it could actually go this time if we get another Ancient Evils. Let's move these back to here. Back here with us. And let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck has Dissonant Voices. That's alright, I'm planning on evading and getting out of here, so I'm not planning on bringing out things like the Derringer. There we go. So here we are, Dissonant Voices, Frozen in Fear, 2 ghoul minions, everything is happening in the cellar today for Finn. It really is a place where there's a lot of things happening. So there we go, that's the end of the Mythos phase. We move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on Finn. Okay, we can't play any assets or events. We're frozen in fear, so I think the main thing is to get the hell out of here. So we could use evade to get out of here, but I want to use that as a last resort, to be honest, because I want to keep that because we don't have the I can't remember what the other one's called again. Sorry, but the other one that allows us to disengage. So I want to keep that and only use it if we absolutely have to. So our first 2 actions will be to evade the Icy Ghoul. It's a 4, we're a 4. Can we throw anything else in? I don't think I'm going to get this onto the table. Am I going to get this onto the table? Because then, which is better, the Darren? I think, yeah, it's going to cost too much. So I'm going to put that onto the table. So that gives us a 5 versus a 4. I'm not throwing that away. I'm not throwing that away. Let's see how we go. Oh no, because there's 2 of these. So if we get a skull, so I think. But then I can disengage from both. I'm going to risk it with a 5 versus a 4. Chaos Bag says, oh, yes, the Chaos Bag comes through. 5 versus 4, fantastic. Whew. So we evade the icy ghoul. There we go. We evaded the icy ghoul. So that was 2 of our actions. We've got an extra action there. So we'll now do a 2 versus a 4 on the ghoul minion. And again, I'm just going to swing it here. See how we go. 2 versus 4. We get a 0. Oh my goodness. We're being very lucky. Thank goodness. So we've evaded successfully both of these ghouls. So that was our second action. And for our third action, we are going to move into the hallway and just get out of the cellar for a bit. Although these guys are all going to start moving next time anyway, so we're going to find ourselves in all kinds of trouble anyway. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So there we go. So we interesting round. We managed to evade twice successfully. We managed to get out and get into the hallway. So the question is now, do we trigger the Ghoul Priest now or not at the end of this round or not? Because if we don't, this will flip over. It's going to flip over anyway. And then what will happen is that all these ghouls will move to the hallway. And we really need to be in a position where, at the very least, we can get into the parlour. We can get Leader Chandler on board. And we can have at least one go at defeating the Ghoul Priest all in one hit. Because if we backstab the Ghoul Priest and we successfully do that, we will do 2, 3, 4 points of damage with Leader Chandler. So we'll practically kill the Ghoul Priest in one hit. So I'm feeling like that's probably something that if we're going to defeat the Ghoul Priest, that's probably what we need to do. And I think if we wait, we are just going to end up in a world of pain of multiple ghouls. We'll literally have 3 ghouls on us, and things will just... So I think it's now or never in terms of doing that. And that feels like that's the only viable way to get there. So that's what I'm thinking we should do. There may be an alternative that I'm not seeing, but I really think, given where we're at and the amount of resources that we have and what we have on the table, I think that's probably the best way to deal with it. So okay, so we move into the enemy phase. The enemies are exhausted. So we move into the upkeep phase. They wonder where we've gone, and what do we get here? If there are no ready enemies at location, search for... Yeah, so it's a little bit late for this card, I'm afraid. This would have been nice at the beginning. It has a wildcard pip, which is handy. And it is a 0 event, so that's nice, but it's going to just find us an illicit card. We've got an illicit weapon. We've got all the things we need. We just didn't get them at the right times. So I feel like it's a little too late from that perspective. So here we are at the end of the upkeep phase. We should have tested for this, I'm sorry. We'll just test 3. We wouldn't have thrown anything in, so it's going to be a failure. If there's a ghoul enemy, take a damage. There isn't, so we just fail it. So here we are at the end. We are going to throw in the 3 clues. This dissonant voices can now go. So we throw in the 3 clues. We flip the act deck. Here we go. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage into the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. There we go. Put the set aside into play. Hello. Hello. Finn, how are you? You coming over to have a chat? And then spawn the set aside Ghoul Priest in the hallway. There we go. We really are frozen in fear now. Hello, I'm going to bash you, Finn. You're not looking too good. So there we go. What have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams, furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing toward you. Okay, if the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. So there we go. So we've activated the Ghoul Priest, which we really needed to do because otherwise just things were going to get totally out of control, and we were going to be constantly evading and getting nothing done with Frozen in Fear. I mean, it's just lucky that we get this free evasion action, because if not, we would have been in all kinds of pain and strife. So let's move into the Mythos phase. So the Mythos phase, here we go. The Doom clicks over here on the Mythos phase. So we'll just get rid of all of these. We'll flip this. Here we go. A feral beast, roughly humanoid with canine cast and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor you see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until a ghoul enemy is discarded. The lead investigator draws that enemy. So here we go. We'll shuffle these back into the encounter deck. Yes, we'll shuffle them back in. We'll shuffle up the encounter deck again. And let's draw from the encounter deck till we get a ghoul. Nope. 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 Yes. So we get a ghoul minion. So just to add icing on the cake, we get a ghoul minion. Man, it is Ghoul City here today. Yeah. So they're getting out. You hear crazed howl outside, and suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything in their way. So at the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves one location towards a parlour. There's going to be a rush into the parlour. And at the end of the round, place one doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or parlour. Yes, things are getting very, very interesting here. The crowd is going wild. They haven't seen so many ghouls in ages. It's all happening here. And that's not all. We've drawn the ghoul enemy, and we're here, but we now need to draw from the encounter deck. So let's see what the encounter deck has. And the encounter deck has rats. Why not? Why not? Oh my goodness, look at all these. I don't think we've had so many enemies. 1, 2, 3, 6 enemies on the table. 3 of them on us, 3 of them other places, soon to be on us. My goodness, it is all happening here in the investigatory games. So let's let's see how we go. So yes, so what do? We get our 3 actions. I think the first thing we do is we use this fast play during your turn, which means yes. Okay, so fast play during your turn. So that takes, so we spend 2. Fast play during your turn. Disengage from each enemy, engage with you, and move to a revealed location. So I'm assuming it's not going to take up an action, a little bit like Think on Your Feet wouldn't either. So I'm assuming that even though I'm frozen in fear, I haven't used up any of my actions. That might be incorrect. I do apologize if that's the case, but that's the way I understand it. So I disengage from these enemies here, and I move to the parlour. So that was our elusive. We took our resources, so we've only got 1 resource left. So that's the first thing that we do. Which means we can resign if things get too terrible from here. But now we can do a couple of things, or at least we can do a key thing, which is we can do a parley. So the first thing we'll do is a parley test on leader. Now that's not a move, fight, or evade, so we can parley leader Chandler. So we're going to parley her for 4. We are a 4. So that's a 4 versus a 4, but we're going to throw a few things in here. We're going to go 6. We're not going to get Leo out. 7, 8. So we're going to make this an 8 versus a 4 to get Leader Chandler on board. So our first action, and we get a skull, so we succeed. Yay! So we put these into the discard pile, and we actually draw a card as well, and we get lucky. Ooh, okay, that could be lucky. So we get Leader Chandler on board. Hello, young man. What are you doing frozen in fear? You don't need to worry about anything. Your Auntie Lita's here. And therefore, so there we go. We've got Leader Chandler on board, so that's great. So we've got 2 actions left. We're not going to be fighting. We're not going to be evading. So we can set ourselves up, I suppose, to take on the Ghoul Priest from here. Now, we could do a couple of things. We've got we only have 1 resource. So my feeling is we need 3 resources, because if we're going to backstab the Ghoul Priest, we're going to do enough damage, then I think we need to make this. So we're going to take 2 actions to give ourselves 2 more resources. And that's going to be the end of our turn. So we'll see how we go next turn. We'll see if we can kill the Ghoul Priest. It's going to get very crowded in the parlour. If we succeed in, if we're not succeeding in getting rid of the Ghoul Priest, then I think we just resign. But we shall see how we go. That's the end of our turn. So we now have an opportunity to see if we can get rid of this Frozen in Fear. It's a test 3. Now, we're going to have an upkeep phase, which means we're going to get another resource. We need 3 resources to backstab. We could use the lucky, possibly, to help us get rid of this Frozen in Fear, which would give us an extra go in terms of the fighting, because otherwise we might be a bit short. So I'm wondering whether we do that. The other thing is just to keep it and use it if we... I'm trying to think what we're going to need to do, because next time when we have the Ghoul Priest, we essentially will have 2 tries to kill the Ghoul Priest. So the first time will be a backstab, where we would be doing for a 5. You see, we'd only be doing a 5 on the backstab versus the Ghoul Priest 4, so we're going to need something like a lucky if we're going to succeed, if we're going to use the backstab. So I'm actually thinking that we don't use the Frozen in Fear because we need all the cards we can. So I think we're just going to go ahead and fail the Frozen in Fear and draw a card. So we draw a skull from the Chaos bag again. Is that right? Yes, we did, because we drew resources, so we got a skull from the Chaos bag, which means we fail again with the Frozen in Fear, which means we can exhaust our Rabbit's Foot, which means we can draw another card and we get Overpower. Oh my goodness, what a great card to get. Just at the right time. Oh my goodness, that's a good card to get. So in a way, failing Frozen in Fear was actually a good thing, if you can believe it. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. The video just, sometimes this happens inexplicably. The video capture on Microsoft just inexplicably died all of a sudden. I don't know what happened there. So anyway, just to recap where we were, all that happened was a couple of things. The ghouls moved, 2 of the ghouls, the Ghoul Priest and the Ghoul Minion, moved into the parlour. The other ghouls moved into the hallway. And of course, because they did that, they moved to the hallway. Then in the upkeep phase, I drew the decorated skull. That put 3 doom onto the agenda, and then of course it we clicked over to the Mythos phase. I didn't realize the video wasn't running, and therefore we got an extra doom. So there are 4 doom on the agenda. We are here in the parlor, so we're up to actually drawing an encounter card from the encounter deck. So we just lost a little bit of time. Thankfully, I noticed that the video wasn't running, so it was just the time between moving the ghouls at the end of the enemy phase, and then in the upkeep phase adding the extra 3 doom, drawing the decorated skull. Obviously we got our resource, and then we tipped over into the Mythos phase. That added another doom, so there's already 4 doom on there, and we're just about to draw the final encounter card before we take on the Ghoul Priest. I do apologize about that. Sometimes for some reason the video capture just inexplicably, it happened to me a while ago where I didn't realize it had happened, and there was a whole gap of time. So anyway, so that's all right. We will move forward. So here we go. The encounter deck gives us yeah, Ancient Evils. Okay, so that's just adding an extra doom, so that's actually a good thing to get. That's not really changing anything very much. Okay, so it is now time to move on to the investigation phase. We put 3 actions onto Finn, and this is the last chance saloon. We don't have 3 actions. We actually have 2 actions to actually kill the Ghoul Priest. So this is what it's come down to. We've got 1 chance to kill the Ghoul Priest, and we actually only have 2 actions to do it because because we're frozen in fear. So if we don't succeed this first time, we are resigning, because we don't want to start taking tons of damage, and we will literally die if we do, because all of these well, we might survive, I suppose. Well, we could survive. Actually, we could survive. So maybe if we do some damage to the Ghoul Priest, even if we then took some damage, me and Lita and Finn could probably survive and then try again. But if this backstab doesn't work, I can't really see how we're going to defeat. So here we go. Let's take 2 actions. So, and spend 3 resources. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to backstab. So we're going to fight. We're going to use our agility. So that's a 4. And if we do this, we're going to do +2 damage. So we've got 4. We can bring this out. So we can make our agility 5. And fight. Do we make it R2? Yep. So we bring this out at 6. So that gives us a 6. I think that's as good as we can do. Oh no, well, we could spend a resource to make it 7, but quite frankly we've got lucky, so we want to keep that for lucky. So here we go. So we are fighting using our agility. So we're a 4, 5, 6. We are a 6 agility versus 4 for the Ghoul Priest. So we need a -2 or better, and hopefully we don't need to use our lucky. Drum roll, everybody. -2 or better to hit the Ghoul Priest. Chaos Bag says, -1. Oh, yes, the crowd goes wild. We ran up behind the Ghoul Priest and stabbed the Ghoul Priest in the back. Let me just double check here. 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 versus 4, and we got a -1. Ladies and gentlemen, we have stabbed the Ghoul Priest in the back, so that's +2 damage. Plus, if we successfully attack a monster enemy, we get +1. That's +3. Plus our normal, we do 4 points of damage to the Ghoul Priest. Wow, that backstab is awesome. Wow, okay. Ow! Ghoul Priest turns around. Ow! Okay. So there we go. We still have our lucky. And we are going to attack again. This is our final action because that took 2. So we're going to fight with a fight this time. So we have a 3. Leader Chandler gives us 4. Then we've got here overpower 5, 6. We're going all in here. 7, 8. In fact, I don't think we even need lucky because we've just put in 8, haven't we? So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's an 8 versus a 4 for the Ghoul Priest. This will do 2 points of damage and take down the Ghoul Priest. There is a hush in the air, very, very quiet, and Chaos Bag says -3. Is that right? Let me just think about this. So we were an 8, 6, 5, 8 -3 is 5. 5 versus 4. Ladies and gentlemen, we have defeated the Ghoul Priest. Ghoul Priest goes down. Dead. Fantastic. Whew. Oh my goodness, that was a very, very... Oh, everything happened in that game. I hope I didn't make any mistakes. Well, I'll review it anyway, but my goodness. So things didn't get off to a great start with Finn. We didn't get Leo DeLuca on board. It was really slow getting around. So it took us to 11 turns. We got Leader Chandler on board, and we managed to investigate the cellar and the attic and defeat the Ghoul Priest with the backstab. Unfortunately, we were not in a position with resources and weaponry to take out the Icy Ghoul or the Flesh Eater, which would have made a massive difference as well. But that's all right. We've put in a pretty respectable outcome by turn 11, which by no means is the fastest, but we've done reasonably okay. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, comment and subscribe. You'll be able to see where Finn is sitting on the league table after this video. Next time we will be looking at the investigator games through the Gathering with Father Mateo and see how he does in the Gathering. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Until that time, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.